Welcome everyone to this week's Wednesday webinar. Today we're going to be talking about calculated and roll-up fields within the CRM. So just some quick information on the fields. Calculated fields are used to create formulas, and you can use filters to automatically set field values. What this means is you can give filters to the data such as, if it is greater than this. If a number on a field is greater than this, set the field value to this. If you can do related parent records, if the account is an open account, set the field value to this. So you can do filters, and then you also can do formulas. And the formulas can include field values. So take estimated revenue plus minus estimated cost or something like that. You can use field values, or you can take a value and multiply it by a static number, which we'll get into some examples of some different ones. Calculated fields can be numerical fields. You can set a calculated field and set the value to text and things like that as well. So the thing with calculated fields is that that's going to affect one record. So when you pull up an opportunity or you pull up an account, you can filter based on related record information, such as is the account open or is the opportunity won, things like that. But you can only pull fields from that individual record. So each individual record will have its own formula applied to it. A roll-up field can gather multiple records into a single field. So what that means is you can use parameters, same things as like, give me all opportunities that are won for this particular account, or give me all leads that are from this trade show into this record. So it can search across multiple records and give you a single, you can do sums, you can do averages, counts, and min and max as well. Things to note with the roll-up field is the roll-up field runs 12 hours after the field is modified, but you can also manually refresh a record as well. So you can manually refresh the roll-up. With that, when you are manually refreshing roll-ups, there is a cap of 50,000 records. So if you have more than 50,000 records, it's usually unlikely, but you could. You would receive an error when trying to manually refresh. It could only run during the overall system job that automatically rolls up those fields. Another important note is that calculated and roll-up fields can be used together. So you can put formulas into a calculated field that gives you an output, and then you could sum together that calculated field in a roll-up field, or vice versa. You could have a roll-up field and you could use that number within a calculation in your calculated fields. So without further ado, let's go in and really look at creating these fields. So for creating the fields, you do go into customize the system. So under settings, customizations, you do want to pull up to customize the system. And for today's demo, I am using the current way of customizing the system. There's the new experience available that's associated with Power Apps, and that's what it's going to look more as we move to the unified interface this year. But I will cover that at a later date. Really today we're going to just be looking at this original experience, and we're going to spend most of the time just talking about the fields. It's the same type of options, it just looks a little different in the new experience. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and create the new fields here. Let me just end this. Okay, so I'm going to expand the entities, and for the calculated fields, we're going to work within the opportunities. So I'm going to go down here, looking for our opportunity entity. I'm going to expand that, and we're going to create two new, well, let's do three. Let's do three calculated fields. Okay, so we're going to create a new field. And the first one, I'm going to do a standard calculation using our estimated revenue field, and we're going to calculate like a weighted revenue. So I'm going to give it the display name. I'm going to say this is a weighted revenue field. And because it is going to be revenue based, I'm going to select that it's currency. And we're going to change from simple to calculated. And when we click on the edit button, the CRM is going to go ahead and save the field, and then it should open up the box so we can start working on the calculation. Okay, so this is the box where we're going to set our calculation. Let me go ahead and make it larger here. And we have conditions we can add and then the corresponding action. So we're going to add a few conditions so you can see how that works. And what we're going to do is we're going to base weighted revenue on the rating of an opportunity. So I'm going to click here and I'm going to add condition. And this is where you can see, do you want to look at the current entity or if you want to look at related entities? So if we wanted to say, is the account open, or, is the lead qualified, something like that, you can look to related entities as well. But we're going to stick with just within the opportunity. Then we're going to pick the field that we want to look at. And the field we want to look at, so I'm going to start typing it in. Oops. We want to look at the rating. And then it has is it blank, is it not blank? But we want to specifically look at if the rating is hot. I'm going to check mark that. The rating is hot. What I want to do, the corresponding action I want it to take is we are going to take our estimated revenue. And you can see down here it does have some different fields you can pull from or formulas that you can use. What I'm going to say is I want to look at the estimated revenue. And we've got estimated value. You can see over here to the right side, if it is a field, it's telling you how it displays. So estimated revenue, estimated value is the schema name that the CRM has for it. So just something to be mindful of. So we're going to say we want the estimated revenue and we want to multiply that by 75%. Okay, so now we can see if the rating of the opportunity is hot, we're going to set weighted revenue to the estimated revenue multiplied by 75%. Then we're going to add an else. So the next condition we want to look at, we're going to follow the same process, staying within the same entity. We're going to look at the rating again. And we're going to say if the rating is warm, the action we're going to do is we're going to take that estimated revenue and we're going to multiply that by 50%. And then the last one we're going to do, staying within the same entity, and we're going to look at the rating again. We're going to say if it's cold, we're going to set the weighted revenue. We're going to multiply it by 10%. And I'm not suggesting that these are numbers you use. I'm just giving you an example of the different ways that you can set it up. So we're going to go ahead and save and close this. And we've got our field filled out. So we're going to go ahead and save and close this field. And the other thing that we do have to do for you to be able to see it is you do have to add it to one of your forms, but we're going to create our 3 new fields first, and then we'll add them all to the form at one time. So the next calculated field that I want to create, we're going to create a date field. And what we're going to say is that for our business process, when we have an opportunity, we want follow-up with the customer to be done within 3 weeks of the opportunity being created. So I'm going to create a field that's follow-up date. I'm going to change it to date and time. And we're going to select calculate it again. And let's go ahead and edit this. We're not going to add any condition. We're going to say this rule applies to any opportunity that is created. We're just going to set an action that we always want the follow-up to date to be 3 weeks from the created on date. So I'm going to add an action, and it's actually really near the top here. We're going to add weeks. And you can see that when you were looking at, here, let me pull this up again. When you see add weeks, it tells you whole number and then comma, and you want the date and time that you're calculating based off of. So we've got add weeks, and we want to add 3 weeks. I'm going to put my comma in to our created on date. So we can see here's created on. And we're going to go ahead and check mark that. That's an easy one to create. So we're going to save and close that. And save and close that. And we're going to do one more calculated field. And this one we're going to do is we're going to create a text field. So you can see that it works not just with numbers, but it can also work with text fields. So in this one, what we want to do is we want a way to define high priority or regular priority customers. Now, of course, you could always just look at the estimated revenue to this as well, but maybe we just want a quick little box where they're either high priority or they're regular. It can be used in several other scenarios as well, but we're going to say we want to know the opportunity priority level. And in this case, it's going to be a single line of text, and we're going to say calculated, and we're going to create the calculation. And on this case, what we're going to do is we're going to say within the current entity, if the estimated revenue, let's scroll down here, estimated revenue, and you can see because we're looking at a numerical type field, it does have those is greater than and is less than options. And we're going to say if it's greater than or equal to, and you can set it either to a different field value or you can set it to a static value that you want. In this case, we're setting a threshold. So we're going to say if it's equal to or greater than $2,500, we've got our condition in there. We're going to say we want this to be a high priority opportunity. Now, when you are inserting text, you do need to put the quotation marks in, otherwise you will receive an error. So we're going to say we want these to be a high priority. We're going to check mark there. We're going to add else. We don't need to put a condition. We're just saying if it's greater than or equal to 2,500, it's high priority. Otherwise, set that to a regular priority. And we're going to save and close this. And we're going to save and close this field. And now I talked about you do need to put these on the forms to start seeing, the calculations work behind the screen. So if you don't want them on an opportunity form, you still could use them in your opportunity views or in an advanced view capacity. But we're going to add them to the form so you can see it directly on the form of an opportunity. And we just have our main opportunity form here. So you're getting a little bit double lesson here. If you haven't worked much with forms, you're going to see basic adding fields to a form. If you are interested in that, we have had some other webinars and some blog posts about customizing forms, so feel free to check those out. But what we're going to do is we're just going to do it right here at the top of our opportunity form, and we're going to look for those 3 fields over here. So we've got our follow-up date. We're going to put that right here. And we've got our weighted opportunity, or weighted revenue, excuse me, weighted revenue. And then we have our opportunity priority. Okay, so we're just going to add them all right here so we can see them. We're going to save this, and then I'm going to publish it. It is always important when you're adding new fields or you are changing forms that once you have that saved, you publish your customizations to be able to see them. And depending on how many customizations you've done, it can take a little bit for it to finish publishing all of them. Since we're just creating a few new fields and adding them to one form, it shouldn't take too long. So before we go look at the calculated fields, since we're already in customizations, we're gonna go ahead and switch for a moment to the roll-ups on an account form. So I'm gonna close this opportunity and we're gonna go up to accounts. And this is where we're going to look at a couple types of roll-ups that you can do within an entity. When you are doing roll-up fields, it is important to note you do have a maximum amount that you can add to one entity. And that's usually 8 roll-ups that you can have. So you do want to think if it's something that you really do need the system to be rolling up, or if it's something that you could achieve via a view or a chart or a visualization instead of using roll-ups. Just know that there is a maximum amount per entity. So we're going to go ahead and say that we want a couple fields on an account form. And the first thing we want to look at is what is the potential revenue of this account? So I'm going to start a new field. And in this one, we're just going to call it potential revenue. And this is going to be currency because we're talking revenue. And we're going to select it to be a roll-up field. And similar to calculated fields, when you hit edit, the CRM is going to save that field behind the scenes here and then pop up a box for us to input the parameters. This looks an awful lot like calculated fields. The first thing we need to do is we need to add what is the related entity that we're going to be searching for. So for this account, what we want to look at is we want to look into opportunities. Let me scroll down here. Opportunities. And you can see behind in the parentheses, it is defining what field the relationship is based on. So within our opportunities, is the account listed as the account or is it listed as a partner? When you have multiple fields within an entity that relate to the same field, you do have to be mindful of where on the form that is being placed. So we want to look at when the account is the account on an opportunity, which sounds redundant when you say it, but that's just what the field is named within opportunities. And then we're going to add a filter. So we want to look specifically at opportunities that are still open because that's our potential revenue. So the condition we're going to add, we want to look at the field, the status. We've got a status field and we want it to equal, and again, this is field or value, but we're looking at the value we want it. We want open opportunities only. The next thing we need to pick is the way that we're going to summarize or the aggregation that you're going to do for that field. We're summarizing in this case. Some of the other options that you have, like I mentioned before, you can do min, max, average, things like that. So we're going to summarize, and we want to look, it already put actual revenue in here, and that's the one we want, but there's any other of your currency fields here are available. But we want to look at actual revenue because we're looking at one opportunities. And we're going to check mark that, save and close. And we're going to save and close this. And let's create our other roll-up field here. And then the other roll-up field we're going to do very similar on this. We're going to be looking at average one value. And I just noticed we did potential revenue before and I made a mistake, which we will go back and fix in just a moment. But this one, we're going to do an average one value. What we want to know is for this customer, what is the average of their opportunity amounts? You know, are they a high price customer where most of their average is like $500 per one opportunity, or are they an average much higher? Maybe they have fewer opportunities they've won, but they're a big spender when they do spend. So we're going to do an average one value. And we are going to still do currency, and we're going to do a roll up. We're going to edit that. And the mistake I made on the last one is I used that actual revenue, like we were looking at one opportunities, but for potential revenue, we were looking at open opportunities. So I needed to use the estimated revenue. I apologize. So again, for a related entity, we're going to look at opportunities where this is the account. And we want to look specifically now at a status that equals 1. And this time we're going to do average of the actual revenue. So we're going to save that, Save and close. I'm going to save and close this. And when you create new fields and you're looking through, there's the name of the field, it has a schema name and a display name. What you type in is the display name. So we were looking at potential revenue. So we could go ahead and filter by that. And I'm going to go through the pages to find the field. We have a lot of fields. There's a lot of out of the box ones. Another way you can too, if you're looking by the schema name, if you filter by the schema name, everything that you create, when you create a new field, has this new and then underscore, so you can see directly which ones were created and which ones are out of the box fields. So let's go, we're going to new potential revenue, and I need to edit this roll up. Now, when you create a field, you cannot change the type of field it is as far as like currency or if it's roll up or simple, but you can edit calculations and roll up parameters. So all I'm changing is here from the sum being the actual revenue, I'm going to go to estimated revenue. And we're going to save and close that. Another thing to note when you're looking at this, you can see that there's two fields here for potential revenue. Every time you have a currency field, it creates the field itself, and then it creates a field that has base underneath it. That's helpful if you are dealing in multiple currency. So don't be alarmed if you see two. Don't try and delete just one. Anytime you create a currency field, it will always add that base field. So let's go ahead and add these to our account form, and then we'll take a look at all these fields we've created. Okay, and the two fields, we're going to put our roll-up fields, and we'll put them right here at the top as well. We're going to pull up potential revenue. And then we are going to pull up average one revenue here. Okay. Another thing to note, when you have roll-up fields, you can also see average one value last updated on. They do have fields for the last time that roll-up was calculated. We're going to go ahead and save this, and we're going to publish it. And then we'll take a look at these 5 fields we just created. Okay, there we go. And now we're back into our CRM here. And let's go ahead and look at our account form first. We just did those roll-up fields. And I'm going to pull up one of our accounts. And this is just our test, our sandbox environment. And now you can see we have the potential revenue field and an average one value. There's nothing in them yet because the roll-ups, like I said, when they're first created and then when they're modified, they're set to run 12 hours after being created or modified. You can see it's locked in that we cannot write or override in it. And when you have a roll-up field, this is where you can manually recalculate the field. So if I go ahead and select that, it's going to take a moment, and it's going to tell us right now the potential revenue for this account is $250. That could be spread apart multiple opportunities, or it could be one opportunity itself. And then we're going to go ahead and recalculate the average one value. And you can see that the average opportunity value, the actual revenue that we've won, is $2,000 for this account. So that could be something helpful just to know in dealing with customers. So those are roll-up fields, excuse me. Let's go ahead and take a look at some of those calculated fields that we created. So we're going to look at opportunities because we put that on an opportunity form. And you can see I got the message my changes weren't going to be saved because we calculated those. That does count as changes to your form. And we're just going to pull up this test opportunity here. And you can see here are 3 calculated fields. So this is an old opportunity. It was created back in 2019, but it calculated our follow-up date 3 weeks after it was created. So our follow-up date was August 16th of last year. The weighted revenue, so you can see estimated revenue up here of $2,500. And we can see, let's see here. Yep. Was looking for where I had the rating, and I don't have the rating field on here. I apologize for that. But what it did is it calculated the rating and figured the weighted revenue at $1,250. So it automatically calculated that, and you could use a sales pipeline for weighted revenue. The other thing that our calculated fields now tell us, because this is equal to or greater than the revenue of $2,500 that we had set, this is listed as a high priority opportunity. So these are just some basic ways that calculated fields can help. It can give you things to filter by, because you could use these to filter a view. So if you wanted to create a system view, show me just high priority fields, or show me opportunities that need to be followed up on within the next 2 weeks. These calculated fields can automatically calculate behind the scenes, and then you can use them in views or advanced finds. Does anybody have any questions on what we've covered so far? Well, if you do have any questions, feel free to reach out to me, and I've got my information here. You can email me, call the office, get a hold of me. I love questions. And as always, it was great spending some time with you guys today. Thank you for giving me some of your day, and have a great rest of your day. Thank you.